People like to play head games with you. I'm going to go over the games that people play so you know how to handle them. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the games that people play because people like playing mind games with you and it could confuse you and leave you gaslit or confused. And this is the new social standard because, like it or not, most people are most invested in their status and how they look because it's just a game of survival. And we get stuck in how look you good. It's all about saving face and saving reputation rather than being authentic. I'm not saying people are liars, but these kind of head games are developed during childhood. And this is developed from a school of psychology called transactional analysis, known as the racket. And the racket is something a child does to avoid, or rather I should say, not necessarily avoid, they just don't have the vocabulary developed to express how they feel and why they're feeling this way. So they create these deflection patterns with parents and play a lot of games and tell little white lies. And that develops, that strategy goes on through adulthood because 0 through 7 are the developmental years and you go from 8 to 25 are the socializing years. So you develop these kind of deflection games. They're called rackets. Racket is you present one thing in the front, but you're doing something else in the back, just like embezzling money or, just like the term says when it comes to a racketeering. But in this case, it's you're presenting a personality or an expression, rather, a version of you that isn't authentic because, again, during those early childhood developmental years, you just don't have the vocabulary. So, but those strategies go on through socializing years are played out through high school, grade school, because, in grade school, it's all about your reputation. It's all about your social reputation. And to protect that social reputation, you learn the lingo of, your generation, if you will, or your class. And that's how you get along with people and blend into the social status. And that goes on through adulthood. Believe it or not, some people say high school never ends. And a lot of adults still play these games because it's all we know. It's nothing wrong. It's just who we are. We're human beings. And nobody took a professional course on authentic expression and communication. So most people just don't know how to express themselves effectively so that what they want gotten across gets across. What they want understood gets understood. Instead, there's a lot of these deflection patterns. And people, we have fun with it. You go to a bar, you go to a club, you're with your friends. You'll see this happening all the time because you don't want to spill your guts. You don't want to be vulnerable in front of a crowd. You don't want to be mocked and made fun of. It's, certainly your social status is important. But when it comes time for one-on-one and having authentic, call it intimacy and true connection, when it's still played out, these deflection games, it comes across as just gaslighting. And it's not very, most people don't take it very well when they're lied to. Or they know that they're being lied to and the person lies right to their face. And they're lying to your face and you don't really know what to say to them because you don't want to insult them. So here it goes. Let's just dive right in here. Most of this is through research and through understanding of my own experience and relationships and social dynamics of my own experience. Number one is the one-upmanship. Everybody likes to have the one-up on somebody. You'll hear this in storytelling. People will share stories, and then someone has to have a crazier, more entertaining story. And then the next person has to have something even crazier and more entertaining. And you'll see this go back and forth. Now, it's usually done out of good fun, but when it comes to personal relationships, especially in the workplace, you have this kind of entitled, stuck-up personality, and you're always one-upping people, like you have to be better than them or else. Well, then it comes across as, well, you're just a genuine fake, and people see through it, And it just doesn't really create a good reputation. In fact, it does the opposite. The game of one-upmanship, it's a competitive world. And we do live in a hierarchical status, whether you like to admit it or not. It does exist. And this is a part of that, is the game of one-upmanship. People will always say they know more than you. Always, there's someone who has to be the smartest guy in the room. There's someone who has to be more interesting. There's someone who just has to know more or be funnier or be better than. This game of one-upmanship is played quite often. I played it myself, I will admit that. And it's interesting to see it played out, though. Once you're able to name the game, you'll see somebody playing it with you, and then you can tell yourself, they're doing the one-upmanship thing. And you can flat out say, well, I got one up on you. How far can we keep this going? And, make fun of it. But some people will get really serious, like, what are you talking about? Because of their insecurity. That's what's going on underneath, is they're insecure about themselves. They don't have a strong sense of self. There's not a lot of certainty or conviction. They don't really stand for something, not a high degree of integrity. So they play these mind games to deflect what's really going on underneath. Doesn't make them a bad person. They're not evil. They're not wrong. It's just that that you're never going to get a straight answer. You're never going to have a sincere connection. And the more you try and the more games these people play with you, you realize they don't want to connect. It's kind of an avoidant, attachment, insecure attachment, I believe it's called in the world of psychology. They avoid, or they're ambiguous. But here I'm talking about the one-upmanship. And, just try it out, look for it. And this is probably the most popular game that people play, these mind games. Now, the next one is look at what you made me do. The blame game. Nobody likes to take responsibility these days. Everyone likes to point I can't say everybody, but you'll see this in people who like to point the finger. And usually this game is played by narcissists. Look at what you made me do. You're making me do this. Avoiding all accountability. It's pure blame. And when a person can't take accountability, they have very little integrity. They're just not a trustworthy person. They're going to mess things up, lie, cheat, steal, and have no remorse and say it's your problem, not mine, after they just lied to you. How come you didn't realize I was lying? This is what a typical narcissist will do with you. In that case, don't even get involved with them. Don't try to connect with them. You're never going to connect with them. They will probably also play the one-upmanship game just to avoid looking bad. So look at what you made me do, the blame game. You know what I'm talking about. You probably played this yourself. It's just fun to know that this is how we human beings, socialize and interact with each other. We play these mind games. The next one is not my fault. You've said it yourself. It's not my fault. Excuses. It's really the world of excuses. Always making an excuse. You'll see this. This is another way of avoiding responsibility. I wouldn't say accountability. A lot of these people will say, hey, well, I know, and then they'll admit some degree of accountability. Person blaming will never admit accountability. It's not my fault. Well, there's always, it takes two to tango, as they say. So what is your participation, or what is the other person's participation? Someone's always giving you excuses. You know that they're just evading. You know that they just say you invite somebody over and they're always giving, or invite somebody out, they're always giving you an excuse to not go out. Well, it just means they don't want to hang out. And why invite them anymore? You know what I mean? Or if you're a coworker and you're expecting a certain degree of work, you're depending on them because they're part of your team and they're giving you excuses. Well, you know what they say, I don't want to hear any excuses. Either you got it done or didn't. It doesn't matter what the reasoning is at this point. You didn't do it, you didn't do it. There's no more excuses. I usually like to give the 3 strikes you're out. And this person has, maybe they're legitimate reasons. I mean, maybe they, the dog got loose in the morning, they're late for work. But when it happens 3 days in a row, they're giving you the same reason. Or on a weekly basis, the dog got out again. You didn't learn the first time. You realize they're just deflecting. They're not telling you the truth. because they don't want to get fired, or they want to save face, or whatever the reason is. They're protecting themselves. Most of these mind games are designed to protect your dignity. Now, the next one is, I mean, all of these are forms, or one form of deflection or another, but you look at the flat out deflection game, the pure avoidance. I mean, you'll see people turn the hallway, or you'll see people start to change the subject. I mean, complete deflecting. I don't know what you're talking about. Or they'll, change the subject to get the attention off of them so that their vulnerability is not revealed. Deflecting. I mean, all of these, again, are deflecting patterns, which is a representation of avoidance. The person is avoiding transparency and vulnerability to save face most of the time. The other game is, I'm the adult, you're the child. You're going to hear this person, when they talk to you, they're going to make you feel small. Or you're making other people feel small and you don't really realize you're doing this. I've done this a lot. And it's like, I know more than you, and I'm not trying to one-up you. I'm trying to help you. I'm your father and you're my son, and I'm going to lecture you and tell you how it is, and you're going to listen to me. It doesn't matter what you think, kind of mentality. Or I'm the mother hen. I'm going to take care of it all. You don't know anything. I know everything, and you just let me do it all. And, that kind of way of being. It's a kind of domination. These people, this kind of game will dominate the conversation. They will dominate the scenario because they're afraid of losing control. A lot of this is about control. And they don't know what to do. This is the way they cope. Something happened in their childhood and they realize controlling the situation is what got them through it, and they continue to control the situation. And you'll see they become manipulative. And this is what happens. They'll bend the truth to serve their disposition. And it's always like you just shrink around them. Or you may be the one making other people shrink around you. And this is very, very subtle, because in the mother hen or father knows best mentality, I'm the adult, you're the child, it's like you think you mean well. Or this person thinks they mean well. But they come across in this manner because they're not honoring the other person's disposition and point of view. They're not even going to listen to it. You hear this between father and son. I'm your father. You don't talk back to your father. I'm your uncle. You should, I'm older than you. This whole mentality, the one-upmanship combined with the I'm older than you. I know more. You don't know. And let me tell you, you should respect me. I'm older than you. It's meant to cover up insecurity. It's because they don't know what the hell they're doing. And they don't want anyone to know. And that's the thing. This is a whole facade. All of these games are just facades that people put up. And even you do it, I do it, we all do it. It's not bad. It doesn't make you evil. It just says you're having difficulty in connecting, having genuine connection with people in building bonds. Because the essence of building connection is trust. I mean, you may think it's about likability. You tend to trust people you like. It's just easier to trust somebody you like. You assume good things about people who share the same interest, but you never really know someone until you know them. And that's where the trust building is really the heart and soul of all bonding. Now, the other one is the exact opposite. I'm the child, you're the adult, meaning I don't have to listen to you. It's defiance. People who defy you. They play devil's advocate all the time. They know they can do it. They play these games because they know they can get away with it. It's almost like a child testing the parent. Let's see how much you can get away with. Let me make a mess and see how much I can get away with. Let me make a bigger mess and see how much I can get away with. So you might mess with people's heads, and it's almost immature. These people come across as immature, never giving a straight answer, always cracking jokes, a wise ass. I play this game a lot too. It's a lot of fun. You can make people laugh. But when it comes time for professionalism, when it comes time for a serious talk, you keep this persona up and no one's going to ever want to talk to you. No one's ever going to trust you if you act like a child all the time. Don't tell me what to do. I don't have to listen to you. You know what I mean? No, you don't have to listen, but you should respect the person who's talking to you. Otherwise, there's no relationship, and why the hell are you even talking in the first place then? This doesn't work in the workplace. This doesn't work in family. This doesn't work in relationship. It doesn't work in friendship. It may work with the customer who's being very difficult, and you're a cashier or whatever, or wherever the situation is. You may not never going to see him again. It doesn't matter. But when you've probably met someone who's like this, you feel annoyed. It's like, what the hell is their problem? Who do they think they're acting like a child? Just being a smartass. Just outwitting you for the purpose of the one-upmanship. I'm going to outwit you. Let's see how much I can get away with. I'm just going to mess with their head. I'm going to play with your words and bend the meaning and make fun of you because there's nothing you can do about it because it's within my rights. You can't hit me. You can't write me up. It's not against the law. I have freedom of speech. That kind of childish, immature, defiant attitude. The other one is, what are they wearing? This is a game where you're constantly comparing yourself to others. And you're constantly wondering what other people think. You're constantly keeping up with the Joneses because it's about status. Look, there is an inherent drive, an inherent desire, an inherent need to belong, to be a part of. It's primal. In the ancient days when we were hunting and gatherers, if you got kicked out of a tribe or a village, your chances of survival, are very slim. And nobody wanted to be banished from the tribe. So the sense of just wanting to fit in, just for the sake of having food, shelter, and water, is instinctual. And keeping up with the Joneses is kind of like that. I mean, you could still have a home and whatnot, but you don't have a nicer car as your neighbor or your friends. You're constantly comparing yourself to others, or people are comparing themselves to you, or you're just around people, maybe you don't care, and you're around people who are constantly comparing themselves. It's a primal drive to want to belong to a community. And if they feel like they don't belong, if somehow they feel alienated, they feel rejected, they may ask, well, what do you think? And they may be comparing themselves to others because they want to know if they measure up so they can fit in, so they can belong. I mean, that's the real underlying desire. But it sounds very shallow when people talk about money and nice cars and clothes and status and what restaurant you can go to. It's like this bragging of, look what I got, what do you got? It's a one-upmanship again. I mean, the one-upmanship is woven into all of these with deflection. It's or you're the one who puts people on pedestals, and it's the opposite of one-upmanship. You're constantly putting yourself beneath people and comparing yourself to them for whatever reason. Maybe you don't have a strong sense of self-worth, and it justifies avoiding accountability. Yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is if you want to play small, it's because you want to avoid accountability. You want to avoid responsibility. You don't want that much on your plate because you understand the sacrifice and the stress it may create in your life. So some people play small to avoid responsibility, and they're willing to take a pay cut as a result of that. Maybe their mind can't comprehend certain dynamics and they're just stuck. But they refuse to take time to learn because they think you're just supposed to know it. If you don't, then I have no inherent ability, I'm not going to try it. People believe in it. They don't believe in growing. So they compare that, they put people on pedestals and say, I'll never measure up. And always talk about that's what they aspire to want to be, but never put in the effort to get there. So comparing yourself to others, a lot of people compare themselves to somebody else or some group or some, celebrity or some ideal or some role model, even. But, social media now, people are constantly comparing themselves with others about how they look. Do I look am I as pretty as her? Is my body as built as his? Whatever it is, am I as alpha as him? This happens due to insecurity, because you don't know your own worth. If you don't know your own worth, you don't know your own value, then you don't know what you can contribute to the community. You don't know how you fit in. That's the basis of it. The other one is my shit doesn't stink. You'll meet people who walk around like their shit don't stink. Like they're perfect. They can do no wrong. They curse. They swear. They say rude things. They act stuck up. They act entitled. And they think their shit doesn't stink. There are people who most narcissists are like this. They will gaslight you, be two-faced, be real hypocrites, say one thing, do another, wrong you in some way by lying or not being a true friend, not being the supportive person they should be if they call themselves a friend, and then say it's your problem. Everything is always other people's problems. It's never theirs. It's like you cheat on your girlfriend and it's her problem. It's because she did this to you, and it justifies cheating. Or the other way around, the girl is cheating and she says, well, you did this, and you're being like this, and justifies it. And acts like she didn't do anything wrong. And acts like the person who is faithful is the wrong person. Because their shit doesn't stink. They can do no wrong. You'll meet people like this. Now, that's just one example. It happens in every dynamic of life. You get someone like this, you just can't take them seriously. They do that to boost their self-esteem because they have low self-worth. One way to increase your self-worth is to boost your self-esteem. Self-esteem is what you think about yourself, how you see yourself. Self-worth is how you feel about yourself. So you change how you feel about yourself by thinking highly of yourself. But it doesn't always work because maybe what you're thinking yourself to be is not congruent with your core values. And therefore, you never really feel better as a result of elevating your self-image. But you walk around this high self-image and you think your shit doesn't stink. This person puts themselves on a pedestal. They probably have an air of stuck-upness. But it's, what can you do? You can't change other people. You can only control yourself. You can only control your reactions. You can't control how other people think, how other people feel. You can't control other, circumstances are out of your control. People want to behave this way around you. You need to learn how to deal with them. And you can just go along with their shenanigan. Oh yeah, wow, that's fantastic. You're really pretty, or you're really great. You're really this, you're really that. That's amazing. And then that's it. That's all you got to say to them. You kind of feed that self-esteem, and then they you be supportive in another way. You be supportive of their self-worth. The narcissist will always have this air of, superiority because they're actually suffering from inferiority complex. You don't want to put them down, otherwise it triggers their inferiority, and then they get angry because they don't want to feel that way. I found around narcissists, you give them praises. Yeah, that's really great. You did a great job. Hey, that's a really great tie, or that's a pretty dress. I like what you did with your hair today. Hey, those shoes, that's a nice watch. You give them compliments, and they're like, you can see they're like, their self-esteem suddenly vanishes, and their self-worth is like, they're trying to build it up because they don't have any. It's a fun thing to do, a narcissist. So all of these, they're all called rackets, and this comes from the school of psychology called transactional analysis. Now, this is not a popular school of psychology, but it attempted to describe human behavior and social interaction. And I found it very interesting because when you look at people, or listen to people rather, and you interact with them, you'll notice these games. You'll notice this in people, especially the one-upmanship. It's kind of funny once you're able to recognize it, like, oh, they're playing the one-upmanship. And I actually, when I first learned about it, I used to call people, oh, so you want to have the one-up. And they're like, what? You catch them off guard. Because they're not even conscious of themselves playing it. They're not even conscious of what the game is called. And when you name it, you're calling them out, and all of a sudden they're exposed. But you'd be playful. Hey, look, no, I get it, man. We all do that. I'm just teasing. But they kind of realize, yeah, you make them aware of themselves. And by becoming aware of yourself, you become accountable. Then you can Own it. You can own your behavior and then thereby change it for the better. It's, again, it doesn't make people evil. It just creates kind of a wall between you and another person, or them and you. And it's kind of hard to really have a genuine connection when people are just playing mind games. And that goes for you if you're just playing mind games with people. You're not going to experience authentic connection. You're probably going to feel lonely, most of the time, because you're just not connecting with people because you're playing mind games. So stop playing these mind games. Be transparent. Be authentic. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing, you don't feel comfortable being transparent, then say that. That's your authentic state. Listen, I don't feel like talking about it right now. I don't feel comfortable. I don't know you well enough to share with you my most intimate feelings. So we'll just leave it at that. Having a bad day or having some home problems, none of your business, but that's all you need to know, essentially. You can create a boundary that reveals enough so the other person knows just what they need to know. And they don't need to know any more. That's how you express boundary. Look, I love to hang out, but to be honest, I don't drink anymore, and I don't put myself in those environments because I want to keep my head clear. Whatever it is. You state your disposition. And that's how you create trust. People will say, wow, you're an honest person. Wow, you're actually pretty authentic. Thank you for that. And they begin to see you as a genuine person. Most people like to be around genuine people, including yourself. You probably want to be around genuine people. But you can't force people to be genuine. All you can do is bring genuineness and authenticity to the table yourself, which then invites other people to be authentic and genuine with you. Gives them permission to be genuine when you are genuine. So be transparent, or just express your boundary flat out. And that's how you create trust. You don't have to spill your guts, but just be yourself. You don't have to play these games. It doesn't mean make everything personal. Being yourself doesn't mean getting personal about everything, making everything about your personal sentiments and forcing everyone to conform to your personal sentiments. That's not genuine either. That's just being emotionally needy, which is another game people play. This neediness. I need attention. Give me attention. I need attention. Validate me, validate me, validate me. It's really comparing yourself to others. People want validation. They want acknowledgement. Give it to them. Express, hey, look, I get, read through the games that people play and then figure out their true disposition and meet them there. Go, look, I know you're working on your status here at work. I know you're trying to impress people. I get it, man. We're climbing the corporate ladder. I get it, but you don't have to fool me, man. I know you. Just be yourself around me. You can literally, I've said that to people, and they're like, what? Oh, I hear what you're saying. Well, thank you for that. Most people appreciate. If they're a narcissist, they're going to be offended. And because you're calling them out and they're in complete denial of themselves and they're just not even going to be aware of what you're saying. And to them, you just ruin their whole game and now they have to start from square one. They usually become resentful towards you. With a narcissist, just be very direct and just talk about what you want to talk. In other words, have a point and then that's it. Don't talk about anything else. That's how you deal with a narcissist. And then give them some compliments because they're deeply insecure about themselves, and you'll break through that superiority act they put on, and you'll actually get to a humble place in them. It's kind of strange how it's counterintuitive it is. You think you got to put them in their place and put them down, and I'm going to, abuse the narcissist because they're being abusive towards me. You give them compliments, and they melt before you. That's my experience. So that's how you do it. These are games that people play. Look for them. They're entertaining once you're able to name them. That's kind of funny. And try to recognize them in yourself. And just know that these are rackets. These were developed when you were a child to avoid expressing your true feelings. And figure out a way, well, how can I express what it is that I really feel? Or what I really think? Or what's going on behind the opinion, behind the reaction? What am I really... I'm expressing values. Express your value. What you believe in, what you stand for, what's important to you. And you state that. Just express yourself authentically, and there's no need for any of these games. I help men do this because I'm a men's coach. I help men find their authentic self because this world is so competitive. We get lost in all this status quo way of being. and we don't really know what's real and what's not. And how can we ever grow and excel and succeed if we're not authentic? We're never going to find any real satisfaction or fulfillment in life if we are not ourselves. And I can help you do that, help find yourself, because that's what I do. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment below. My contact information will be in the description. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Thank you so much for listening.